Hey folks, how's it going? Hopefully the audio and microphone is all working, but welcome to the first of what will hopefully be multiple streams of the development process for Breach Buddies. I'm really excited to sort of take you behind the scenes and share with you what that process is like. The majority of my YouTube videos are tutorials on how to make games and stuff like that, and I constantly get asked to make videos where I'm sort of going step by step and walking you through the process versus just showing you the result afterwards. And that's what these streams are going to be basically meant to do, to show you that step-by-step process. And I thought this would be a really good place to start because today I'm going to be implementing the AI for this game. Now, that's certainly not a one-day task. It's going to take, I'm sure, months. But this is the first day, and that's the most exciting day to start. So I'm going to be using an asset called Opsive behavior trees. And that's going to allow us to create artificial intelligence behavior that will basically control how the enemies in this game move and react to you when you're walking around. So I have, let's see if we could show my screen here. On the left-hand side of my screen, you should be seeing, I'm not sure if my mouse shows up. I don't think it does. But this is sort of what a behavior tree looks like. It's basically a series of nodes, sort of like that. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more examples in the tutorial that we're going to sort of work through together. But on the top of the screen that I'm showing right now is actually Breach Buddies itself. So we're in Unity, which is a game engine, and that's the engine I'll be using to make this game. And let me jump into the game and actually show you what we're working with here. So I've got a bit of an automated system here, which will automatically join us into a lobby, spawn a bot, and then begin the game. And for this purpose, we're actually going to be starting the game always in the same exact position, just so that we could test it. So I'm always going to spawn over here next to this table. And then over there in the yellow raincoat is the bot, who we're going to be programming today. So the bot will always spawn right there in the kitchen, sort of looking towards that door. And if I were to show his field of view right now, I could toggle it on with the F key. That's him, that yellow that yellow raincoat. That's where the bot is. So I could actually just go ahead and shoot this guy, and he'll die, and then the game will start again. But that's basically the test environment that we have. Right now, that bot does not do anything, and, well, we'll see how far we get today. I think it'd be pretty cool if maybe the bot could walk around the map and try to search for me. And if he finds me, then he should try to shoot me. Assuming I'm on the enemy team. So that's sort of the end goal. I don't know if we'll get there today. Maybe we'll just have him moving around or something like that. Really depends. Let me just turn the volume down a little bit. I've got some music in the background too, just to keep me from getting bored, I guess. And if you have any questions during the stream or even after this is a stream and it's just a video, just feel free to leave them in the comments section and I'd be happy to answer. And so I think I already said, so I'm going to be using Opsive behavior trees, and that actually is an asset from the asset store. So let me pull that up in case you're interested in getting it yourself. Here we go, asset store. So this normally takes a little bit of time to load. So it's called Opsive behavior tree, something like that. Oh, I think I just saw it. Here it is. Behavior trees for everyone. Okay, so this is like 90 bucks. So that's what I just bought. It costs about $100 to get started, which is obviously a little bit expensive. But hopefully it's going to save me at least $100 worth of time. That's usually the best way I find to like judge these things. It's like, okay, if you're paying yourself minimum wage, I think it's like $7, then, if it costs $100, what is that, like 12 hours? So if it saves you 12 hours of work, then hey, it's worth it. And if you're paying yourself, what an engineer might be paid, like $50, then if it saves you 2 hours, then $100 is worth it. So let's jump into it. Here's the tutorial we're going to be watching together. Sort of like a reaction video. We're going to watch the tutorial, and then we'll try to implement it. Hopefully we can get that guy moving around. Let's jump into it.
This video is going to give an overview of Behavior Designer. Behavior Designer is a behavior tree
I should warn you, I normally listen to videos at like 2 times speed, but I'll slow it down.
implementation designed for everyone, including programmers, artists, and designers. It can do this because it offers an intuitive visual editor and a powerful API. In addition, it's integrated with Playmaker and UScript, and it includes hundreds of tasks, which makes it possible to create a complex AI without having to write a single line of code. This video is going to be going over the overview documentation that's available online. So I already have Unity open, and I've created a pretty basic scene. In this scene, there's this cube that will move back and forth, and it's just an animation that plays, so it will do that forever. This capsule right now does not do anything, but we are going to be creating a behavior tree that will have the capsule move forward, and then as soon as it sees the cube, it will start seeking towards the cube. So if I go and hit play right now, you'll see it really doesn't do much. There's a cube that will move back and forth, and since the capsule doesn't have a behavior tree on it, it's just going to sit there.
2.5?
So let's create a behavior tree.
Man.
We're going to open...
I don't even think that's an option by default. I wonder how you... Oh, custom. How do you do that? How do you do 2.5? That's very interesting. Yeah, they were saying in chat they do YouTube at 2.5. I'm like, yeah, I probably would if I could, but it limits me.
And we'll get started.
Okay, cool. So we're going to just click a drop-down menu.
Cube. So if I go and hit play right now, you'll see it really doesn't do much. There's a cube that will move back and forth, and since the capsule doesn't have a behavior tree on it, it's just going to sit there. So let's create a behavior tree. I'm going to open Behavior Designer, and...
All right, let's jump in. Tools, Behavior Designer, Editor. Okay, so it says, hopefully you're seeing this. Oh no, it's not showing up on your screen. That sucks. Okay. Let me see if I could change that up then, because I want you to be able to see what I'm looking at. Trying to show you my screen. Okay. This is going to be a little bit of a mess. Sorry as I set things up. It's all very new to me. Let's squeeze that back over. Alright, so as you can see, it shows like there's no pop-ups, but there are these pop-ups on my screen. So I think that's going to be a problem if I don't fix it now. And we'll just pull this up a little bit. Right about there, should be good. Let's see that. Alright, so now you should be able to see that. Chrome extension. Aha, yes. Well done. Makes sense. All right, cool. So it says, welcome to Behavior Designer. So they got some samples, some documentation, they've got videos. I have worked with this company before. I was thinking of making a YouTube video about the last asset I used from them, because they are actually the tool that I use to make the animations in the game. And that asset costs $300. So that was a very expensive asset. But I've been happy with it so far. It was very frustrating to get set up, to be honest, but it's coming along. All right, so here we are. So we've got the Behavior Designer set up, and I imagine I'm going to be looking at this window for a long time. So let's see what he has to say.
We'll get started. Now that Behavior Designer is open, you can see that in this main area is kind of the graph area where you will be creating your behavior trees. On the left is the properties panes, which allows you to add new tasks, create new variables, modify the properties on the task, and then modify whatever general behavior properties there are. I'll show each of these panes as soon as we create a behavior tree, because right now there's really not much there. This top area is kind of the operation.
I noticed that my video is being hidden. Pull it like that.
Toolbar, where you can navigate between active behavior trees, select a behavior tree within your scene or prefab, and then remove a behavior tree, add a behavior tree, lock to the current selection, save your behavior tree out as an external behavior tree, as well as there are some properties right here, or preferences right here. So the very first thing that we're going to do is what it says. We're going to select a game object. Since we want to add a behavior tree to the capsule, we're going to select the capsule. Now we want to add a behavior tree. We could click this plus button.
Okay, so, oh, that's strange.
Button, or we.
Okay, so I think it might be worthwhile to just explain how my scene is set up right now. So the way that I've got it set up here is we have the player pawn. Let me see if you can see this. You can. Okay. So the player pawn is basically a prefab, and it has different game objects under it, which each do different things. So the FOV controls basically the flashlight, determining what the player can see. Logic is where we take the player input, you know, when they're moving around. Combat handles, you know, whether or not you've been hit by a bullet and stuff like that. Locomotion is, I think, just based on moving, and maybe combat's just based on shooting. And then the animator and avatar, it basically does the visuals of like, what does the player look like and what's their current animation. It'll also control all the different visuals for, you know, which gun you might be holding at different points in the game. And so within logic, I had a section here just called AI logic, which I think I was planning to disable if it's not an AI. So this is where we're probably going to put the behavior tree. So I have the game object selected right now. And it says right-click, add a behavior tree component. So let's set that up. And let me apply that. So we're applying our changes to the prefab. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to confirm that AI logic gets disabled if it's not an AI. Because this behavior tree is probably going to be doing stuff, and I don't want it to be doing anything to the player pawn, only to the AI pawns. So let's give that a go and see what happens. Just trying to get ourselves set up here. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump over to our pawns and just take a peek into the logic to see whether or not it's being disabled. Okay, so this pawn, local pawn, is the bot, and this pawn, active local pawn, is the player. So both of them actually have this AI logic object enabled, and that's bad. We want this one, the player, to be disabled, so it should look like this. So I'm gonna need to go handle that. So let me jump into the code and do that now. You'll send it to me. Awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that, James. Let me see if this chat is working. It's getting a little bit weird. My chat window here. Let me see if I can move that. Hey, what's going on, Artem? We're working on AI for the game. I'm not sure if you could scroll back while I'm streaming, but you could see the beginning of this video just to talk to the overview of what we're trying to do right now. But the first thing first is we are trying to disable this special behavior tree on the player. We only want this to run on the bots. So that's what I'm going to work on first. Let's see what we could do there. So it's this section right here in pawn logic where we determine whether or not it's going to be a player or it's going to be a bot. So somewhere here, I'm going to have to find that component. So here, I think it might be it. Update control type. Okay, so here we determine whether or not it's going to be the player controlled or AI controlled. Let's see. So we say, so this happens in the initialization for Photon. Photon is the multiplayer engine I'm using that allows multiple people to verse each other and stuff like that. So it looks like we're going to update the control type here. And it says if it's locally controlled, then we're going to set it as the active pawn. So I think this is probably a fine place for us to turn on and off. I'm just trying to think whether or not this is exactly where I want to do it, but I think this is probably fine. So I'll do a bool here called enable AI logic. And by default, it'll be false. And when would we want to turn it on? I think in this case, when it's... No, here. So when it's locally controlled, but it is not active. So in this case, I'm saying local pawn. I think I'll say AI dash local pawn. So this is the active local pawn, or maybe I could say player. Maybe I could do that. Player local pawn, AI. I'm trying to think, what's the opposite of AI? Maybe manual? Manual local pawn, and this is the AI local pawn. And so it's in this case that we want to set enable AI logic to true. This is the only case where we have the AI. And then down here, we just need to grab that game object and turn it on or off. So let's see, how would we jump to it? So here's pawn logic, and then it would just so happen that the first child is going to be AI logic. So now I have to decide whether I want to drag it in a serialized field, or if I want to just say, you know, grab your immediate child. I think it would make more sense if I set it up as a serialized field, so let's do that. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm just giving this script a way to refer to the AI script, AI object, in order to disable it. So that's going to be serialized field, game object, or I guess here, since I know it's going to be of type pawn AI logic, I can just do this. We'll call that AI logic. Okay, so we'll save that. Oh, interesting. I already have a reference to it. Ah. Okay. So I was grabbing it with a get component actually already. I don't think I want to do that though. I think instead it makes more sense to just, maybe I should manually drag it in? I'm not sure. And this is what it looks like when I'm coding. It's just like a ton of me going, not sure. Should I do this? Should I do that? I think I'm gonna go with what my previous self decided to do. So I'm gonna do get component in children. I think that's fine. That's a very expensive call to do if you're calling it every frame, but if it's just at initialization, it's no big deal. And so then here we will do AI logic dot game object dot set active, and we will turn it on only if we should enable the AI game logic. Okay, so that is done. So now to recap, what we should see is 2 of these pawns will spawn, and 1 of them will have the AI logic enabled, 1 will have it disabled. So let's reload and just confirm that's working. I can confirm you could scroll back in the stream. Thanks for checking on that for me, James. I appreciate it. So that's good. That way I don't have to keep explaining, you know, for every new person that joins. Okay, awesome. So something went wrong here. Getting a bunch of errors. So let's figure out what those are. And I see my video is kind of like hiding it a bit. But we'll just go to the top here. So I'm getting tons of errors. That's not good. The behavior on game object AI logic contains no root task. Okay, so it's their component that's going crazy on me. I add their thing and now it's suddenly breaking all the time. Is that what's happening? Logic is locally controlled. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Interesting. So they're saying that this AI logic was never actually initialized. That's a little bit concerning. So what I could do is I could set a breakpoint, and I could figure out why it might be trying to access AI logic before I've even initialized it. Not too sure, but we'll figure it out. So this seems to be the case where the error is happening, and I just need to confirm that the initialization step, which happens on line 66, I need to make sure that that happens before we try to use it on line 121. So let's attach to Unity and give that another shot. I think before I start worrying about why their system isn't working, I'm just going to disable that component for now. So let's apply our changes, save the scene, re-import the code, and give that another shot. It's a step-by-step process, folks. We are still 2 minutes into the video, and how long into and 20 minutes into the stream. Yeah, that seems about right. It's slow going sometimes. Okay, great. So we must have hit the breakpoint already. Let me go check that out. All right. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I could see it called update control type before it's actually initialized. So that's not good. Why is that? So it did update control type. I want to see where that's getting called from. Not too sure. Oh, up here. I see. So it's doing the manual photon initialize, and then here it's doing the update control type. And I see, it's only initializing after. I think that's rather strange. I wonder why I'm trying to set all this stuff up before I initialize it. Clearly I've stepped into something evil here. So it looks like the photon initialization has to happen first. All right, well, you know what? Just for the sake of moving on, I'm gonna do a pre-photon initialize, and we'll just manually call this AI logic setup before I call this stuff. You know what? Actually, I think I want this to be the pre-photon initialize. Darn. It's also tricky too to stream it, because it's like sometimes I think, oh, I want to go fix this, and it's like, oh, that's gonna take 10 minutes, but it's kind of not what we're meant to do here. I don't want to get too distracted. So I'll call this called after photon initialization, and then this pre-photon initialize is what we need to manually call before we do this. Okay, so that should confirm that we set up the AI logic before we try to use it. It's nice to stream though. I feel like coding just takes so long, you know, and you have to be very patient, and it's nice to be able to talk to someone, you know, even if there's like 0 viewers, you know, you're talking to whoever's gonna stumble upon the video next time. All right, and I think we're actually in a really good spot. So we have the logic for both of these guys, and as you see, this one is grayed out because hopefully it's big enough on your screen. I'm not sure if it is, but this one's grayed out because it's the player, and then this one, which says AI, has it enabled. So that is all looking really good. So we're gonna turn that component back on. We're gonna save, we're gonna refresh, and now we're gonna be able to continue with the video.
We can do what it says and right-click, add a behavior tree component.
Okay, so we added the behavior tree component.
Now that the component's added, you can see.
Hey, I watched your video about leaving and moving to id, and it was so interesting the perspective you had. Really made a video. Hey, thanks, Reese. I appreciate it. You know, what's so funny is when I worked at Call of Duty, that was on an engine which long ago, back in the day, was made at id, you know, by John Carmack and buddies. And now I'm working at id, and I'm seeing all the similarities between the two engines. You know, most people will tell you they're very different in how they've diverged, right? Obviously, Doom is a very different video game than Call of Duty, but it's really funny to see the similarities. For example, in Call of Duty, when you want to tune part of the game, you'll use a feature called a DVAR, which stands for development variable. And in id, it's the same exact thing, but it's called a CVAR for whatever reason. So it's funny because I've worked in so many different engines, and those two just have a lot of like silly little things in common. It's interesting to see what sustained, you know, the transition. And I think that somebody who knows a little bit more about the engine could probably give better insights. But yeah, it's just interesting, and it's an amazing team at Raven, by the way. You guys should definitely look into it if you're looking to apply and stuff like that. It's a great team. Lots of really smart people there.
In this Unity inspector, that the behavior tree component is listed right here. This inspector is pretty much the exact same thing as this inspector right here. So if I change the name, I'll change it to Seek Cube. You'll see that it changed on this side as well.
Seek Cube. All right, let's give that a try. So this is my basic AI. What should I call it? I don't know. I'll just call it AI bot. Is that redundant? I'll just call it basic. basic dash bot. Okay, cool. So it opened over there too. Awesome. All right, so this is the basic bot.
Now, this variables pane is also active now that we have a behavior tree. These variables allow you to share information between different tasks. You can also click on global variables, and that will allow you to share information between different behavior trees.
Hawk Hunter says, you know, he wish Raven listened more to the community. I think that's something that you know, they're definitely working on with the patch notes. I was just reading the patch notes today. You know, I'm trying to keep up to date with what's happening in Call of Duty, and it was really cool to see that they did some iterations on the perks. You know, I think that's definitely something that they've needed to do for a while. So it's really awesome that they worked on that.
So we will make use of behavior trees in a moment, but the very first thing that we want to do is add a task. Now, just kind of to show what behavior designer is all about, let's go ahead and add the seek task. This seek task is available in the movement pack.
Okay, this is perfect. So we're adding in the seek task. Hopefully this will be enough for my bot to go and find me and then eventually attack me. Let's see what we can do here. Seek? Is that how I do it? It's not showing up here. I've been asking for the perk changes for years. Yeah, true enough.
When I click on the seek task in this task inspector, we can see that we can modify the various seek tasks. In this task inspector, we can see when I click, this seek task is available in the movement pack. Let's go ahead and add the seek task.
This is a little bit strange. I'm not sure why this isn't working. So he's typed in seek here, and he has all these seek tasks available, but I don't for some reason. I don't know why that is. What if I do add behavior tree? Do I need to do that first? No. And this just created a new behavior tree. Okay, that's not what we want to do. So let me go back in a basic bot. And we need to figure out why the seek task is not showing up here. It's almost like everything's grayed out for some reason. I wonder why that is. Oh. Now I can touch them once I run the game. Oh, and look, now they work also. What's going on here? Oh, okay. When I highlight... Huh. So when I click on this object, they all become transparent. When I don't click on anything, now I can touch it. That's so strange. Oh, but look, I'm not editing that behavior anymore. Okay, so this is going to take some time to figure out how this controls work. Yeah, no worries, Hawk. I totally understand where you're coming from. It can definitely be frustrating as a player, you know, if you feel like the devs can't hear you. But, you know, that's the great thing about doing an indie project, right? You can do a stream, you could show them all the code. You know, that's something that I really enjoy, because I love making YouTube videos and sharing with people how I made the games, you know, that they loved. It's one of my favorite things. And, you know, not only do you help some of the players learn how the game is made, but you help inspire, you know, the people who are going to make the next game. And it's funny because I have, well, it's rewarding, I should say, because people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, and they're like, oh, I read your book, or I watched one of your videos, and that helped me, you know, get the job that I wanted. So that always puts a smile on my face. I really like doing that. Okay, so for some reason, I can't add a task if I'm clicking on a tree. I have to click off a tree, and now I can set it up. It doesn't make any sense. What's going on here? I do not know. I have no idea what's going on. All right, well, we'll figure it out. So basic bot's here, and we want to add the seek.
This seek task is available in the movement pack.
So it's an actions movement. Let's see if I can find it here. Actions. I see actions, Unity, animator, anim source. Trying to see if you can see what I can look at here. So it's in movement, and these seem to be movement. I wonder if they took it away. So this video came out in 2014. So it's very possible that things changed a little bit. And of course, that is always my frustration working with Opsive. Their documentation is not good. But I do have the documentation PDF here. Let's see whether or not they changed that. If you'd like to add this to your seek task. Well, thankfully they do have a really great forum, so maybe I'll just have to ask them on their forum if I get stuck. But this is also one of the good reasons why, you know, it's good to make YouTube videos and content like this. It's just because their tutorials are shit. you can't get through 5 minutes without getting completely stuck.
Add the seek task. This seek task is...
So he went to tasks, he typed in seek, I've done all that. It just doesn't show up, it doesn't let me do it. Why is that? No idea. Wonder if
available and it's all about so you between different tasks behavior. We could click this plus button, or we could do what it says and right click, add a behavior tree component. Now that the component's added, you can see in this.
Okay, interesting. So when he created his behavior tree, he got into a menu that at the top there, as you can see, it says add a task. So mine doesn't say that. So I'm curious, what went wrong? Why is it in view only mode? I guess that's my question. How to exit view only mode? Not sure.
You add a behavior tree. We could click this plus button or capsule, the game object. Since we want to add a behavior tree to the capsule, we're going to select the capsule. Now we want to add a behavior tree. We could click this plus button, or we could do what it says and right click, add a behavior.
Okay, so he added the behavior tree and immediately he was able to add a task. So let's start from the beginning. Oh, did I add 2 behavior trees here? What's going on here? All right, let's do it manually. So we're gonna do. So there was a plus button, so we'll push the plus button. There's the behavior. I'm gonna name it basic-bot. Okay, and now I can add a task. All right, strange, very strange, but that's just how it is sometimes. So let's go ahead and see if we can find that seeker task. Nope, still can't do that. Okay, add a task, actions maybe, seek. I said it was a movement. Maybe I can find a movement section here. No, I'm not seeing anything like that.
Behavior tree component. Now that the component's added, you can see in this Unity inspector that the behavior same thing as well. Now this variables pane is also action. We will add the seek task. This seek
Actions movement. So we just typed in seek with a capital K. Mine does not show up. It's so strange. Well, I guess we're just not going to be able to continue with this stream if we can't figure it out. It's awfully unfortunate, but I guess I'm going to need to go get help from them. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. I've learned to be very patient with Opsive. Creating the animations was very difficult.
Each task is available in the movement pack.
In the movement pack. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's available in the movement pack. The movement pack. Uh-oh. I'm thinking this might be, dare I say it, a microtransaction? This $100 asset? I have to buy a goddamn add-on? Are you serious? Oh my god. Yeah. I bought this $100 asset and I can't do the first tutorial without buying a $10 microtransaction. Oh my gosh. All right, let me hide the stream for a second while I enter in my credit card information. Ah. That sucks. That is a jerk move, 100%. I am not happy. But let's just get it done so we can move on. So that's why. Sorry about that. We've been stuck for 20 minutes because the asset it came with a tutorial, but you can't complete the tutorial until you buy another asset. What? I mean, that's just a bunch of jerks, honestly. I can't believe they did that. All right, so I'm downloading the movement pack. Now I'm wondering how many freaking packs do they have, you know? Oh my god. Yeah, Opsive. I'm not the biggest fan, but you know what the thing is? There's not a lot of... Oh my god. So there's at least a few packs, at least 4. So I wonder if we're going to need to get some of these other packs. Oof, not happy about it. But, you know, even with, you know, this bullshit, it's like, could still save you a lot of time. All right, well, that brings up the money meter to $100. 90 bucks plus the $10 pack. We're going deep. We're committed. It's the sunk cost fallacy. All right, I think we've got everything imported. We should be able to start the stream up again. It's loading. Whew. Not cool, man. All right. Does the seek come up here? Seek? No, seek. Well, if you spell it correctly. Yes, it does. Okay. All right. So here we are with the seek task. They've got us, folks. Old Matthew Ventures. They hooked them good with the microtransactions. And we are going to proceed with the tutorial.
When I click on the seek...
All right, so we are adding the seek task. Seek. All right, looks good. Looks good to me.
task, in this task inspector, we can see that we can modify the various properties of the task. And if I actually, let me just go ahead and open Visual Studio so that we can see what it looks like. So here are the different...
Okay, that's pretty cool. So you did edit script there, huh? Try that. let's see what we bought for $10. That was the big issue with the other Opsive thing. It was that the coding was so messy. I bought this $300 asset from them. I was not happy. I want to make it a YouTube video at some point. Checking out the Discord chat. Bubble's giving me the thumbs up. I appreciate that, Bubble. All right, so here's the seek code. Ah, yes, 52 lines. Yes, those 52 lines. That's what I bought. All right, so what are they doing here? It looks like they have a start where they are setting a destination to a game object called target. Okay. If target is null, then they go to its value. Otherwise, they go to its position. And on the bottom there is a reset function. And during the update, they check if they've arrived. If so, they return success. Otherwise, they update the destination and say that they're still on their way. So it looks like this doesn't move them, it just sets the destination. So that's what seek does. Okay, makes sense.
And open Visual Studio so that we can see what it looks like. So here are the different properties for that or the different fields.
Is that the same script I'm looking at? No, it's not. They've changed a lot, evidently. Okay, so this one's called Seek Action. Seek, I see that it's derived from action. This one's derived from NavMesh movement, which is derived from movement, which is derived from action. Okay, interesting. So this one is a little bit different. And of course, they haven't updated their tutorials in 6 years. 6 years? How long has it been since 2014? 8 years. Since 8 years. Okay. Well, that's just how it is. That's just how it is sometimes.
Fields for that task, and they show up right here. So very similar to the Unity editor and how it works with mono behavior objects. So we can.
I'm just gonna mute the. Thank you, Scott. I'm gonna mute the Discord because I keep getting the pings.
Set the speed and the angular speed of the seek task, and we could just set it right here, but since we're going to be using speed.
Okay, so I guess it makes sense that you would want to set the speed, because it says it's just setting the destination, but what I imagine it's actually doing is it's setting the NavMeshAgent destination, as you can see here. So it's not just saying, oh, go there eventually, it's actually telling the NavMeshAgent it's time to move. So I wonder how I need to do the hookup in order for this guy to know where his NavMeshAgent is. And am I even using NavMeshAgents? I think I am. But I don't know where my mesh agent actually is. Probably in locomotion. No. Avatar? Maybe I actually don't have a NavMeshAgent. Well, let me just test that. NavMeshAgent. I can see there's some here. But they're disabled. So it looks like I'm going to need to add a NavMeshAgent to the AI in order for it to work as well. Because they currently do not have any NavMeshAgents. T:\NavMeshAgent. Oh, so by the way, little tip here in Unity, if you do T:, then it will find any game object that has that component. So if I'm looking for a NavMeshAgent component, it doesn't matter what the name is. If I do T:, I'll find any game object that has that type. So what I'm going to do here, just for sanity, is I'm going to check whether or not there's any NavMeshAgents when I run the scene. Because I think that's going to be important to figure out. I say for sanity. I used to work with this programmer named Michal, and whenever I would bring a bug to him, the first thing he would do is he would say, "For sanity, we will check this." And I love that. I love, because I guess it just reminded me of like Call of Cthulhu, which is this game where you can lose sanity points if things aren't going your way. And I always appreciated how he almost acted like it was a game, like we need to first get our sanity points back before we try to fix this bug. Alright, so there are 2 NavMeshAgents. It looks like they're in a disabled game object called trash. So, it doesn't seem like they're relevant for me right now. I could probably just go ahead and delete that, actually. That was using the way old NavMesh system. So I'm just going to delete that. So we don't have any NavMeshAgents right now. We do have a NavMesh, but the way that I have it working right now is I have the player control where they want to move, and I just validate their position with the NavMesh versus having the player slowly go there with a NavMeshAgent. So that actually may be something we need to change. That may be a pretty fundamental change that we need to do in order to get this logic working. But let's continue with the tutorial for now. But with the understanding that it seems like the seek function relies very heavily on having a NavMeshAgent.
And angular speed in various tasks, we're going to create a variable for it. So that's of type float, and let's call the first one speed, and then we will call the next one rotation, just since that's easy.
Capital variable names. Oh, that's spooking me out a little bit. Oof. All right, I don't know, but I think I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna have a lowercase. So here we go, and it's a float, he said. All right, pretty cool. I like their editor. I think it's actually really nice. What's this one?
Easier to spell than angular speed. So now I click on, since that's easier to spell than angular speed. The next one, rotation, just since that's easy.
This guy said, let's call it rotation because that's easier to spell than angular speed. What a guy. So, oh, what happened? Okay, so I have, so speed, it looks like it minimizes itself. Interesting. Okay, so I think his claim there that it was easier to spell than angular speed was complete bullshit. We are definitely going to spell angular speed because angular speed is not rotation. That is a totally different thing. I don't know why he said that. He's completely wrong. Okay, so I think we're set.
Easier to spell than angular speed. So now I click on speed and I want to set a speed value of, let's say 20 and a rotation value of 1,000 just so.
Okay, as you saw, I just clicked something and both of my variables disappeared. So we're having fun. We're having fun now. Okay, so why did that happen? I don't know. So speed, we're going to set that to 20. Select a variable to change its properties. Okay. So there's definitely a 20 there for speed. Let's go to angular speed. We'll add that. That will be 1. Enter. Okay. Okay. And they are staying there for now. I don't know what that little button does. What does that do? Not sure. Hopefully we'll figure it out later. And X, I assume, just deletes it. So that's looking good so far. Do I need to save this? I guess not. Maybe it just saves as I go. All right, let's push play.
So it rotates as quickly as it can. Now if we go back to the inspector, we can click this little button right here, which will allow us to have a drop-down box, and we can.
Ooh, that's cool. Okay, so we go to the inspector. We select speed. A drop-down box here. Okay. Doesn't seem like I'm able to do that, so we're gonna have to figure that out.
We can rotate as quickly as it can. Now if we go back to the inspector, we can click this little button right here, which will allow us.
Okay. Oh my gosh. My variables are gone again. What is happening here? Do I need to have this enabled? Is that what's going on? Oh, Opsive, you will never cease to confuse me. I do not know. Hopefully this is reassuring to anyone watching who thinks game devs have it all figured out. No, we don't. We have to work with very strange tools that don't make any sense. All the time. Okay, so this is all... looks good. Go to Inspector. Select a task from the tree to view its properties. So my thought... This is global variables, okay. So that pulled this up. Let's set up that window. Alright, so here's my thought. My thought is that I need to add the variables. Can I not extend the window anymore? I can't extend the window anymore. Oh my gosh, we're having fun. We are having fun. Okay, so I think my issue is that I need to add them while I have one of these things selected. That's my guess. I think that's what the issue is. But then again, your guess is as good as mine here. I really have no idea. So we'll try the speed. Angular speed. Okay. Select the target specified using the Unity NavMesh.
Us to have a drop-down box. It rotates as, let's say 20, and a
you see that? They just disappeared. What? This is so strange. So, here's my new theory. Okay, we're going through lots of theories here. My new theory is that it is reading my input values from this inspector, and it's overwriting what I'm doing in this window. So that's, of course, always an issue. When you have the ability to write in two locations, there's a possibility that it could be writing from here and overwriting my work. Just a theory, but I wonder if I close this, whether or not this nonsense will keep occurring. And yeah, this is still grayed out. I do think graying things out is a dark pattern, because seek the target specified using the Unity nav mesh. Oh, okay, that's a description for what this node does. That's what that is. But we were able to figure it out by looking at the code. So for whatever reason, this is grayed out. Can't touch it. Name, speed. Okay, I know. You must think I'm insane, because I've done this 5 times. And in truth, I am. 20. Entities. Still haven't figured out what this thing is. Select a variable to change its properties. Huh. That deleted my variable again. Alright, well, we got an extra 5 minutes into the video. But, I'm worried again. I'm worried again whether or not I'm going to need to ask for help. And we are almost 1 hour in, so we're probably going to cut it at 1 hour, but I think this has been a pretty accurate depiction of what it's like working with Opsive. And like I said, it's not my first rodeo with them. It's been a long journey. So let me see if I can notice anything different about what he's doing to figure out why this might be broken.
Rotation value. So that's of type float, and let's call the first one speed, and then we will call the next one rotation, just since that's easier to spell.
So you'll see that he has seek selected. It's glowing blue, and he types in his variables: speed, add.
Well then, and let's call first one speed, and then.
And it's a little bit different. It just immediately gives him the. Oh, what the heck? Are you serious? Clearly, I'm missing something. What? How does it keep on deleting my variable? I guess I need to save it somehow. I'm not sure. Maybe it has to do with that little button? Tasks. I don't know. Wonder if it's one of these. Allow edit on prefab instances. Well, this is a prefab instance. I wonder if that's what's creating my issues. I'll check it. I'll check it to see if that makes a difference. That could definitely be the problem here. Let's give it another try. Oh, I already have a variable called speed. An angular speed. Could that have been it? A secret little checkbox hidden away? Well, if that was it, I'm really happy I found it. So it was in preferences here. Allow edit of prefab instances. Again, you know, sometimes that's honestly just game development. And I'm happy I was able to capture it today, because it's like, sometimes it's just some stupid checkbox you need to check. Thankfully, with Unity, that happens a lot less. I know when I was working on Fortnite, on the Unreal Engine, that happened all the time. I still have a lot of pain from working on the Unreal Engine, just because it was a lot of checkboxes. It was a lot of checkboxes that, like, it would just be broken unless you knew what to check, you know, and that's always the trade-off, right? But I definitely think, as a UI suggestion here, if they're gonna clear my settings, they should have notified me, right? They should have said settings removed because it's a prefab, right? That clearly would have been a better UI. But what are you gonna do, right? I mean, sometimes you're just subjected to shit tools, right? It's just kind of what it is. Because obviously this is not a shit tool. It's great. It's providing so much value, but maybe it wastes half an hour of your life because there's some mistake. Oh, just one moment. All right, and we're back. Let me just remove this thing. All right, so what was I talking about? So, angular speed. Okay, yeah, I think that worked. So I think that was the issue. It was just a checkbox. All right, I guess it might be worth reading these other checkboxes to see whether or not I'm gonna get screwed again. Show behavior designer icon. Open inspector on single task selection. I think this one would be nice. Fade tasks after they're done. Allow edit of prefabs. Position properties panel on the left. Mouse wheel scrolls graph view. Huh. Seems like it's already scrolling. Grouped field start visible. I don't know what that means. Compact mode. Try that. Oh, okay. It removes those cute little icons. I definitely prefer the icons, at least while I'm still learning. Snap to grid, show selected task description. I see, so that's what this bottom thing is probably. Record, undo, redo, real-time error check. Select game object if breakpoint is hit. Check for object updates. Add GUI component. All right, so I think we have gotten through level 1, which is to, you know, figure out that little button there. And yeah, check it out. I can now edit the inspector. So this is going really well. We have made a seek node. a little bit less than I would have hoped to get through in our first session, but let's see if we might just get a little bit further.
We will call the next one rotation, just since that's easier to spell than angular speed.
This guy with the rotation angular speed.
So now I click on speed and I want to set a speed value of, let's say, 20 and a rotation value of 1,000, just so.
So this is kind of curious, right? I have a speed variable here that's 20. And then over here in the inspector, I have a speed variable of 10. So there's two things with the same name. What was that? So you can add a little magnifying glass to visualize that? That is so cool. That is a really cool little feature there. Oh, and I think this is what he was going to show. So instead of... I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but I think instead of having a const value, which I guess these all are, these are all const values, the variable values can be exposed and edited through some external program. I'm going to assume that's what it is. Makes me wonder, though, whether or not I should have these renamed to, like, K speed, K angular speed. You know, K for me usually means constant. Curious. All right, let's keep going.
Rotates as quickly as it can. Now, if we go back to the inspector, we can click this little button right here, which will allow us to have a drop-down box, and we can select whatever variable we want. So we'll select speed for speed and rotation for angular speed. Now, we can either set the target transform or the position that we want the capsule to move to. Since I don't have a separate game object for it right now, I'm just going to set the position. And a position of 00300 is pretty far out in the distance, so we'll just go ahead and set that. Now, as soon as I hit play, we should see the capsule seeking towards the position 00300 at a speed of speed and angular speed of rotation. So if I go ahead and hit play, the first thing you'll notice is that the tasks light up. Whenever the tasks are active, they turn green. So you can see he's moving, moving, moving. He ignores the cube for now because we haven't done anything with that. But as soon as it gets to distance 300, this behavior tree should stop and the tasks won't light up anymore. So there we go. He's at distance 300. The behavior tree ended, and you can see this little check mark, which means that the task...
All right, pretty cool. Something tells me this is not going to work at all for me, because I don't have a NavMesh component, and you actually saw the video with me from the very beginning. And I don't think he described having one either, but he must have had one. Because there's nothing that's going to be able to move my guy. I think we're just going to get an error. But we'll try it. Oh, and I didn't set the position there. Okay, let's see this. No NavMeshAgent attached to AI logic, but a script is trying to access it. Okay, so makes sense. They want a NavMeshAgent on the AI logic. Here's what I don't like about that, though. I might not want to put my NavMeshAgent there. I might want to put it somewhere else in the hierarchy. And this was something that I noticed a lot with Opsive, was one game object with, I'm not joking, 20 different components. Which I think is a fine way to do it, but not when I want to split it out and, you know, adaptively turn, you know, game objects with hierarchies on and off. So adding a NavMeshAgent is not trivial. Put this over here. Set that up like that. Okay, so I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to get to that today. We can give it a quick try. The NavMeshAgent. So, and this currently just sets it to 000. Okay. I'm fairly certain this is not gonna work. If I just throw in a NavMeshAgent here. I'd probably have to do a lot more tuning to get this to a good place. But let's try it. All right. Okay, so we spawned in. You can see the AI bot is there. And what else? So there's their field of view. And let's see what's going on in their game object. Well, they've got a behavior tree, but is it the correct one? It is basic bot. And they've got a NavMeshAgent, but they're not moving. Are they already at 000? Oh, gosh, they're pretty darn close. Look at that. They're at 0. Yeah, they're basically at 000. So, oh, and you know what? I know exactly why that is. Because the AI logic doesn't move with the behavior tree. The avatar moves, right? The avatar is at this position. So I could show you with this local thing. So in this case, my avatar is moving. So you could see he's moving in the position up there on the top right. These values are changing as I move my guy around. But if I go to his logic component, that's not moving. The logic does not move when the player moves. So this is going to create a big problem, because it's clear that this external library has a dependency on there being a component attached with the NavMesh ability. And the issue there is that I don't want to attach it to the AI logic. That NavMesh agent, as I alluded to earlier, that actually needs to be over here on the avatar, which is going to be the representation in world that's going to be moving around. So that is pretty tricky. What we're going to need to do is rewire that code in order for it to work with me. And now it's going to become a question of how open is this. We'll just drag it here. We'll put a NavMesh agent on this guy. But we are not yet too sure whether or not it's going to play nicely. It very well may not, and that may be a big pain for the rest of tonight. But at least we were able to get through the other stuff. Okay, so I knew that error was going to happen. And the reason why I created this error is I want to see where is it trying to access that NavMesh component from. And hopefully I can get it to change its logic. And instead of looking for the NavMesh component, the NavMesh agent on the game object it's attached to, it can go through a reroute. Yeah, that's a very frustrating thing about Opsive. It just, they always assume that the component is on the game object. Okay, so this is pretty good right here. Check it out. NavMesh movement is doing a get component call to NavMesh agent. So what we should be able to do is override this and tell it to find the NavMesh agent not on its own component, on its own game object, but on a different game object within its hierarchy. So that's going to take a little bit of work here. The way that, so again, this is going to take a little bit of explanation on just how I have my particular scene. And I mean, that's natural, right? When you add a new tool to your game chain, you're going to need to adapt it to work for your particular code base. But the way that my code works is I have this object here called pawn services. And the way that pawn services work is that it has a public and private getter for all the different services that a given pawn would need. So for example, if the logic component here wanted to access the locomotion component, it doesn't have direct access to the locomotion component. It only has access to the root services, the pawn services component. And so what logic would do is it would say, hey, services, can you give me a reference to the locomotion? And then it would say, sure, here you go. So basically all the control flow goes up to services, and then services is the only component that looks down to grab references. This is great because it prevents a lot of the spaghetti stuff that can happen where this component needs to talk to that component, and that component needs to talk to this component. Instead, we just have one set of references, and that's from pawn services to everything, and everything else has one reference, just to pawn services. So the reason why I explain that is because it's exactly what we're going to have to do here. The behavior tree is going to need to grab pawn services and then get the game object for our animator or our avatar, and there we can get a reference to the NavMesh agent. So let's take a look at how that might work. Dear me, I'm already lost. I need to find the that line of code we were just at. Here it is. Let me just pin that before I lose it again. Okay, and so instead of doing getComponent NavMeshAgent, we're going to somehow obtain a reference to upon services. And then from pawn services, we will do avatar animator. And then from the avatar animator, we can get the component. Something like that. And then I also want to throw in an assert here. Just make sure that we actually found it, because if we didn't, that's a problem. So that should be good. What else? So now we need to actually grab the pawn services object. So how to do that? Well, I know it's going to be here on AI logic. I can get a component to pawn AI logic, and then I think we'll figure it out from there. So let's do that. Action. Task. I'm questioning whether or not I should hash off the pawn AI logic. It is a movement type. Let's not do that yet. I'm not worried about it. Pawn AI logic. Alright, so we're going to grab the AI logic. We're going to assert on that. Always throw in your asserts, kids. It's like eating your breakfast, you know. It's good for you. Okay, now we're going to need to get from AI logic to the services. Great. There's nothing here. Well, that's going to take some time. But we can make it happen. So let's see, how are the services wired up for logic? Services. I want to see where this is set. I see. So it does transform.parent.getComponent. Okay. Well, I think what we could actually do is getComponent in parent. And I think that would probably be a better call. Because what getComponent in parent does is it will recursively go up. I don't know if I can find. I was hoping it would give a description here, but we can pull it up in Google. What getComponent in parent does is it will go up and up and up until it finds the valid component. So that's exactly what we want to do here. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, we may not actually need to. I'm questioning whether or not we even need to get the AI logic, because we could actually just go up and up and up straight from the behavior. Oh, I'm not sure. I think let's ignore the AI logic, and let's just do it from within the NavMesh movement, because maybe we don't have to use the AI logic at all. What? How could that be? It's a little bit interesting. So get component in parent apparently is not working. Why? Are we not deriving from a mono behavior? Huh, I guess not. But they did do a get component. So is that a custom get component? Wait a second. I think they might have just seriously confused me. Because there was a get component call here just a second ago. I wonder if a get component is of course a very well-known Unity function. I wonder if they've chosen to override it. Oh, they did. Huh. Okay. Very strange. So they've overridden it, but I don't get to see the source code? Ah, because it's in the runtime. Alright, so they've chose to override it, but they've been very selective with that. So they have only overridden some of the functionality. So that's a little bit frustrating. It means we're gonna have to be a little bit inventive here. So I'm gonna set this up as an initialized mono behavior, which is a class I set up myself, which basically just requires you to, you know, it has a isInitialize variable, and then whenever you try to do initialize, it will call initialize if it has not yet been initialized. So basically it just makes sure that you call this function called initialize, and you only call it once. So that's what that does. And the reason why I want to do that is because I'm going to have an initialization function here. And then when I do get services, that will make sure I call it. So I'm just going to be, I know we're a little over time, be moving a little bit fast. Services. So here I'm declaring the variable for the services. Then here within the initialization is where I would get it. Get component parent on services. Now the reason why I'm doing it here in AI logic is because for whatever reason NavMeshAgent doesn't allow me to call this function called getComponentParent, which is exactly what I need. So that will be that. And then we'll do a public services, get services. And then here we'll make sure that the initialization happens first by doing try initialize. So this will confirm that we were able to obtain services. And hey, can't hurt to throw in another another is null check here. And by default, you know, if it's null, it will be false. So we can actually just throw services in alone there. So that's good. And then we'll return services. Perfecto. So now we need to get the pawn logic. And I know I copied it, but I think I've since overridden my copy. Ah, darn. So here we're gonna do a little bit more work here. And logic. We don't even need that. Good, good, good. AI logic, NavMeshAgent. So now we're going to do AI logic dot services. Perfect, and that should be it. So now, hopefully, what will happen is whenever this NavMeshAgent thing is called, it'll grab the AI logic component, and then when it grabs that AI logic component, it will call get services. When it goes into get services, it will initialize if it hasn't already, and what that will do is it will get the component in parent of pawn services, so that we now have a reference to the services object, and from there we can get the animator avatar, which has the NavMeshAgent. Okay, a lot of steps, but that is you know what it's like working in an actual code base, I guess, versus you know, the example project that he had where it's just like two things, and you know how it is. All right. Pawn AI logic does not contain a do update. No. Oh, okay. So there was a method here called do update, and I wasn't using it. So I guess that was just placeholder for me, but I'll add it back. We'll figure out what it needs to do later. I had just set up that class just in case we needed to do something exactly like this to handle, you know, whatever Opsive couldn't, basically. Okay, so I think we're in a good spot. Let's apply our changes and give it a shot. Uh-oh. Resume can only be called on an active agent that has been placed on a NavMesh. Oh, and how did I get way over here? This is probably because I added in the NavMeshAgent. Huh. Alright, so I think some additional work is going to need to happen here. Or we're going to need to, now that we have a NavMeshAgent here, we're going to need to be doing a lot more work in our set position to basically control where this guy's going to go. Because if we don't do that, I don't think he's going to move on his own. So this is probably a good place to stop, at least for this stream. I think I'll probably be doing more work on the solo, but I was really happy to have, let me go to just the camera. I was really happy to have this opportunity to walk through sort of what it's like to integrate a new technology for the first time. I chose to do this specifically because it's a big departure from my tutorials where I sort of, you know what's happening from the beginning and I'm explaining it after having already sort of mastered it. In this case, I'm explaining it as I'm figuring it out. So a very different kind of video, but hopefully that gives you some insight into what it's like to sort of problem solve or just, you know, smack yourself in the forehead when some dumb issue like a checkbox isn't checked and that causes you to lose half an hour. You know, it's very typical in game dev for something silly like that to happen, but this is a testament to, you know, the unfiltered truth of what it's like. So thanks so much if you checked out the stream live, or if you're watching this in the video recording after the fact. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments section below, and I'd be happy to get back to you. Thanks, and good luck making games. Oh, sorry, HockeyPuck, just saw the question. New job's going great. I'll probably have a video on it at some point in the future, but I recently started at id Software, and I've been working there for, I think maybe about a week now. Still getting ramped up, but what I'm doing is, I'm trying to help improve the onboarding process, and I think that's a really great approach to take whenever you're like the new person, because you're going down a path of doing things for the first time, and other people are going to follow that path after you, you know? So it's funny that Reese was just in the chat because he had joined the team that I was working on at Raven just after I had. And so whatever I like to do when I join as a new team is I like to think of myself as a snowplow, and I'm going down the road, and if there's snow on the road, I'm gonna go slower than maybe most people and make sure the road is in really good condition so that when the next person comes, they're able to drive without any of the snow getting in the way. So I'd say that, in a metaphor, that's kind of what I'm up to right now at id Software. I'm trying to improve the onboarding process, because I know once I've worked there for a month or a year, you know, it's going to be so hard to remember what it was like just starting out. So this is really the best time to figure out, what is the new guy going to find confusing about his first day? That's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. a lot different from Raven. It's funny because we were talking about this recently. Raven has a engine that started out the same way as the id engine. So there's actually a few similarities, like Raven has something called dvars and id has the same thing, but they're called cvars. So I'm noticing there's some similarities. But so far in terms of differences, I think it's a little bit too early to tell. Well, I think I'm actually going to wrap up for the day, but thanks so much, Hockey, for jumping in on the stream, catching the end there. And I'll see everyone else later.